Isn't spring a wonderful time of year? I love to see the new life that appears all around after a long, cold winter. And when seeds that are planted begin to transform and sprout and grow into beautiful plants and even trees that produce more life. And yet here I am, standing in a cemetery. And yet what makes this cemetery personal is it's where my grandparents are buried. They were blessed with full lives, but my grandfather, for the better part of 3 decades, dealt with a slow, debilitating disease called Parkinson's. At the time, little was known about it, even less on how to treat it. One of his hands had a noticeable shake. Though he was nearly 6'3", even taller than me, he began to stoop over when he stood up as he aged. And in his later years, he would often fall and would need help getting back up. Honestly, as a kid, it was sad to watch this progression. Yet he wasn't defined by all of those things. He was a godly man who was a faithful husband, a loving dad, and a good manager. For years, he was a leader at his church and gave generously to help share the good news about Jesus. And though my grandparents passed from this life years ago, they didn't leave me and my extended family with just memories. They left us with a confident hope that we will see them again. They fully embraced the words of Jesus that he spoke to another grieving family. And so that's what I'd like to explore with you right now. In this series of short videos, we're on a journey together to discover who Jesus is by considering what he said about himself. And our guide on this journey is John, a close friend and follower of Jesus, who spent 3 years walking with, eating with, and listening to the words of Jesus, which he later wrote down. And on this occasion, Jesus visited a family that he was close to. But the circumstances were far from ideal. 2 sisters were grieving the death of their brother Lazarus. Yet as we'll see, Jesus came to bring comfort and hope and reveal something truly incredible: resurrection and new life. This family lived in Bethany, a small town not far from Jerusalem. Jesus was often a guest in this home, and he just loved sharing meals with this family. But while away, Jesus received word that his friend Lazarus was deathly ill. After 2 days, he decided to go visit them. But his close followers were concerned. Jesus had some real enemies in the region of Judea where this town was located. And they were out not only to discredit him, but even recently to kill him. But Jesus wasn't dissuaded. He knew God's plan, that there was a compelling reason for him to go to Lazarus' home. So Jesus said to his disciples, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up." And so his disciples naturally said, "Well, Lord, if he's sleeping, he will soon get better." What they didn't realize was that Lazarus was in fact dead. But in his words, Jesus reveals something about the nature of death. See, many people believe that this life is all there is. That once you die, that's the end. And as a result, they often live this life with a sense of reckless abandon, subscribing to some form of the philosophy, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. But Jesus understood something that often escapes us. Death isn't the end. It's not the last word. In fact, here he compared it to sleep, which only lasts for a while, but at some point we are awakened from it. So when they finally arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had been dead 4 days, and family and friends were there grieving with his sisters, Mary and Martha. When Martha heard that Jesus had come, she went to him, and you can hear the pain in her words. "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask." Now, for those of us who have lost a loved one, I think we can understand Martha. Losing a family member or a close friend, it leaves us feeling empty, vulnerable, even wondering, if only. But Jesus wants to help Martha see something more here. Your brother will rise again. And Martha said, yes, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Now Martha's understanding was common among Jews in her day. You see, many believed in the resurrection of the dead, at the time called the Day of Judgment. And on that day, all who have died will all be raised from the dead by God to give an account of their lives before Him. But here Jesus reveals something new. And He says this, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never die. Now, at first, it seems Jesus contradicts Himself. If you believe in Him, you will live even after dying. Yet, if you believe in Him, you will never die. What is He actually saying here? Well, He's revealing the true nature of life and death. Death is not the end. It seems final, but it really isn't. And the one who holds the key to life after death is Jesus Himself. I am the resurrection and the life. Now these words seem bold, even bizarre, but Jesus isn't just talking here. He's inviting Martha to see her circumstances from His vantage point. So He says, do you believe this, Martha? And she responds, yes, Lord, I have always believed that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Now Martha was on the right track, but even she probably wasn't anticipating what happened next. In the moments that followed, Jesus was moved by the grief of Martha's sister, Mary. He felt both anger and yet He even wept Himself. See, Jesus understands our grief when our lives are rocked by death, but He also wants each of us to know that it's not the end of the story. And so He approached Lazarus' tomb, maybe something like this, right? And against the strong reservations of everybody who was there, because they were concerned about the smell of Lazarus' decaying body, Jesus told them to remove the stone that was blocking the entrance. And then He said this very interesting prayer. He said, Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of those people standing here, so that they will believe you sent me. And then it says, Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. And guess what? He did. Dead 4 days, and now he's alive. And yet He comes out still bound by his grave clothes, and he just walked out of the grave alive again. Now to you may sound like a fairy tale. You might think so, but the eyewitnesses who were there would say otherwise. Even Jesus' enemies couldn't deny what had happened. It's pretty easy sometimes for people to dismiss things they have not seen. But John, who shares this story with us, he was there. In fact, he was there when Jesus Himself was put to death on a cross, only to see Him rise from the dead 3 days later. And that's why millions of Christians today celebrate Jesus' resurrection on Easter Sunday each year. Resurrection from the dead. It may seem improbable, even impossible to many. But as Jesus' words and life reveal, sometimes there's more than meets the eye. I am the resurrection and the life. It's not just a nice idea Jesus is suggesting, but a new reality that He wants to open up to you and to me. In some ways, it may come down to a simple question. Is this life all there is? Or do you believe there's something more? Personally, I believe there's something more. I believe in Jesus' resurrection. And I've seen amazing change that God can bring about in people's lives today. He can heal, restore, redeem broken lives. He can make something new. I think spring is just an annual reminder of that too. And if He can do that in this life, I'm confident He will do it in the life to come. My grandparents believed that too. Not convinced? Well, that's okay. Keep exploring and walking with us as we seek to discover more about who Jesus is and to find our own answer to His question, who do you say that I am? In the meantime, you can read the story for yourself as written down by John in his gospel account in John chapter 11. You can also skip to the end and read about Jesus' own death and resurrection in John chapters 19 and 20. So until next time.